Player spotlight of the day, a QB with some major fantasy upside. The other day I tweeted out how Jimmy G last season was number 12 in passing yards, but number 24 in air yards. How could that be the case? Well, the guys in his system had a ton of yards after the catch. Debo was number 2 for wide receivers, Ayuk was number 19 for wide receivers, and Kittle was number 2 for tight ends. I made it about Tua, but in reality it should have been about the new QB in town, Trey Lance, who has major fantasy upside. I also had a recent thread about rushing quarterbacks, a sample size of 43 quarterbacks that hit 300-plus rushing yards from 2017 through 2021. Over 50% of those rushing quarterbacks were top 12 quarterbacks on that season, which, again, is more content put out there that directly relates to this guy, Trey Lance. In all honesty, I wasn't super high on Trey Lance as a prospect. But the 49ers organization obviously was very high on him, taking him 3rd overall in last year's draft. And although he wasn't a starter last year, we did see a couple glimpses of fantasy upside for Trey Lance. On 38 attempts, he had 168 rushing yards. 89 of those rushing yards came from Week 5 alone. He also had 2 separate games of throwing 2 passing touchdowns. Week 17, he threw for 249 passing yards. So I always talk about the boxes that players check, but here are Trey Lance's boxes that he checks for 2022. Elite rushing upside, which we know is a near cheat code for fantasy football. I do think he has a plus arm and will need to continue to develop as a passing quarterback, but like I said before, he's got 3 guys in his system that provide a ton of yards after the catch, which adds to his fantasy value. Trey Lance is being drafted as the QB14 for this coming season, but I believe he has some massive upside for fantasy that can be very useful for your lineups.